Hi guys, you're watching At Home with Anila, and today I'm speaking to Hollywood actress, director, feminist and change agent. She's received recognition for her lead roles as an actress in films such as Scream and Planet Terror. She's directed her own movies and she's been a pioneer in one of the biggest movements of the 21st century, the Me Too movement. In her book Brave, she describes herself as being raised as an outsider, then a runaway, then a captive, then a starlet, and then a celebrity. And I'm about to find out who is the real Rose McGowan. Rose, thank you so much for speaking to me today. Now, I've described you as all those things: director, feminist, change agent. How do you define yourself?
I don't really define myself. I always just think of myself as Rose. That's pretty much it. I'm just a human being bumbling through this world, trying to figure it out, just like anybody else.
And talking of the whole bumbling through the world, you know, your book shows how your life has taken twists and turns. Is that how you generally just function in life? You just bumble along and kind of go with the flow? And
I'm a very go with the flow person because the flow has been so extreme, and the twists and turns have been so extreme that it always seemed, what's that old saying, like you make a plan and God laughs? Yeah. And it really seems quite true. Anytime I made a plan, something really catastrophic would happen to kind of subvert it. So I just thought, best not to make plans.
See, that really comes out in your book as well, about how, you know, you'll be set to do one thing, you've made all the plans, you've packed your bags, you're ready to start this life, and then suddenly something happens. It's drastic, it's dramatic, and then suddenly your life's taken a whole new turn. And actually, it seemed that you fell into Hollywood as well. It wasn't something that you were planning to do.
No, I wasn't planning on it at all. In fact, my ideas about Hollywood were that the people there were cheesy and I didn't want to be a part of it. I wasn't too far off. I didn't want to be a part of it at all. So when the person asked me, like, on the street corner when I was standing there crying, and they're like, do you want to be an actress? And I'm like, God, no. You know, it was never a part of the plan, but I always knew at the same time that something extraordinary was going to happen to me, but that it wasn't necessarily the big deal.
That is what I found really, it was like a strange contradiction, because in your book you said, I always knew I'd be famous, but what did you think you'd be famous for?
I had no idea what I was going to be famous for. I just knew I was going to be famous before I even knew what famous or understood what that was. And plus, you don't really understand famous until you actually are it. You don't really understand the real definition, like inside and out, until you're in it. But I always had this sense that I was going to be doing something really big, but that it was something that other people are going to be thinking was a really big deal. And I didn't think acting fame was a very big deal. That wasn't the big deal to me. The big deal was going to come later.
And what was fame like? And what is it like? Because you are famous. People would know who you are walking down the street.
I think it's a very strange world. Like when I was on TV, like that TV fame is like unlike anything else, because you're in people's living rooms and they think that you're their friend and you're their family, and to a degree you kind of have become that, but you don't know it yourself. It's like a weird lonely bubble, I think. It's a very strange, it's an uncomfortable piece of clothing that you wear.
Which is really interesting, because you're more connected to people than ever if you're in their homes all the time.
But yet you're not. Not really you. It's not really you.
And you mentioned the kind of standing on the street. And for anyone who may not have read the book, you know, you talk about your childhood and when you did things where you were kind of, it was busking really on the street and singing on the street for money. What was that like?
Well, that was just Tuesday. I don't know, it was just normal to me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't anything really to take note of. But I got to watch the world but not be in the world. And that's kind of what fame was like. You get to see the world, but you're not really in the world.
That's really, really interesting that you say that, because a lot of people think that people who are famous shape the world.
They might,
and I suppose
but you don't get to enjoy being in that world.
I suppose you talk about it where you say like how Hollywood prescribes what the idea of beauty is.
Yeah.
So in that sense, people who are famous do to an extent shape our ideas and beliefs. So you did kind of have, you do have that power, really.
You do, but it doesn't, but you're just still your own person in your own body, in your own face, so you're not really going around thinking about that. You just more like people are using you or hiring you as ways to kind of shape things.
A lot of people have inhibitions when it comes to speaking out and going against the norm, and that's something you've done pretty much your whole life.
Yeah.
So in your childhood, you know, you spoke out quite a bit when you were in a religious cult. When it came to Hollywood, you spoke out with the Me Too movement. And a lot of people just generally think that, oh, you know, if I speak out or I go against the norm or I do something that isn't what's regarded as normal by society, I'm going to lose my job. What will my friends think? What will my family think? How have you always kind of found that courage and bravery, I suppose, to speak out against what's considered normal?
I never liked normal. I didn't think normal's all that. I just don't think it's that great. I don't, you know, I think like if things aren't going well already and the norm is the reason why that's not going well, then we're a sick society. We might as well change it. It just never seemed to me like, why am I fighting to be a part of a status quo that I don't like or respect?
But it's difficult.
It's very difficult. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It's not fun.
So why would anyone want to speak out then? Let's say that someone's had...
Because it's the right thing to do. Most of the time.
Okay. And you really follow that, don't you?
I follow that. I follow integrity. I follow truth. I follow those North Stars, yeah.
Going back to your book, Brave, some media reviews have described it as a game-changing expose of the Hollywood machine. What is it that the public doesn't see about Hollywood or know that you really wanted to shine a light on?
Well, you know, I would say just that it's not an accident. It's not an accident like how people feel about themselves when they watch something, how they utilize and weaponize girls and women in movies against girls and women sitting at home. And same thing with men, you know, and they weaponize a lot of these things with either they do think about it or they don't think about it, but it has the same result. You know, and it can make you feel bad about yourself, certainly, and feel bad about your place in the world, or it can make you aspire. It can make you do a lot of different things, but making you is the key word. You know, when people sit and they watch movies or TV, their brains are open. They're just sitting there open to whatever's going to come in.
Yeah.
You know, there's no gatekeeper that's like, actually, this could be bad for you. It's like if you know you're smoking cigarettes or eating McDonald's, you know there's certain effects that are going to happen to you. People don't feel that way about movies and TV. But it does affect you. And a lot of times in a damaging way. And you can still consume all these things. You just have to be really aware of what they're doing to you.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad you say that, because when I was reading your book, I did feel really guilty because I watch Hollywood movies as a way to relax.
Right.
And it's my downtime. It's where I want to switch off or I want to learn something that's a kind of historical movie or just have a laugh with a comedy.
Right.
And I kind of felt guilty after that bit because I thought, maybe I've just been really unaware of what I'm consuming.
Well, you probably have.
Is that what you wanted people to feel? Maybe not the guilt.
Not the guilt, just more like I just want you to look at it with a clinical eye. And then you can go back to forgetting, but I want you to see what they're telling you. And see what they're saying and see what they're doing. Because you're letting it into your head and it is affecting you in your life, whether you know it or not.
You also said things like your entertainment comes at a cost to us performers. And what's the highest price you paid?
Well, for me, you know, what I mean by that is just that it's a strange... It's that nobody really thinks about the performers and the physical, especially if it's a stunt role or like you're doing a lot of stunts and you're getting injured, and you can Google Hollywood on-set injuries or on-set deaths and you could go hours reading through them. You know, that's more like what I mean by that.
Right, I see. And you say that no one's ever asked you about your craft. So what did it mean to you to be an actress, and what was it that you wanted to do with your acting? Because actually, on that note, that I was quite surprised you went into acting and singing after you had that kind of street experience and you saw other kids walking past and you thought, oh, you know, they don't have to sing for money, they don't have to do what I've been doing. And then you ended up in a performing arts kind of profession. I thought that's really strange how you went from that.
But I didn't know any other kind of profession to go into. What other world had I existed in? That seemed familiar, that I would understand.
I see.
There really isn't one, you know. I mean, that's the whole thing about Hollywood and that industry, is that it does attract an awful lot of weirdos and an awful lot of people that are misfits everywhere else. And that's the good part of it, you know.
What would you say was the highest price you paid?
I was paralyzed in my right arm for 2 years. They took 3 parts of my elbow out. I would say, well, the highest price I paid was by being assaulted, certainly. But then the other one was probably the physical pains. But my craft was something I was very dedicated to. You know, I was. And I had this ability to be able to leave my body and let another spirit or character or whatever come in and take over. But I also just got tired of leaving my body, because I was like, I'd rather be me.
And do you think that was actually part of your way of coping with what you'd been through in life, being able to leave your body, and actually in that way acting helped you? In
that way, acting was something I could do because I knew how to leave my body.
I see.
Yeah.
So that was a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And you're directing now.
Yeah.
So what are you doing that's different to the Hollywood machine?
Well, I would never put people in horrible situations. I would never try to send a message that wasn't about helping, that isn't about raising, you know, questions and ideas and concerns. And you can do all that through entertainment. It doesn't have to be just, you know, mind rot or something like that. And you can do things that are really, I love psychological horror and things that trick the mind. And, you know, life is kind of a fun house, right? So why not put that on film?
I've really been fascinated by how you say you see shapes and art in everything.
Yeah.
So what colours do you see in the world right now?
I see a lot of colours in the world. I see a lot of really hopeful colours, a lot of beauty, a lot of seafoam green.
Which we've now established, this is seafoam green.
That's seafoam green.
Mine was like a boring mint interpretation, but I like yours better.
Thank you.
Let's just look at society, because you know you are all about the psyche and about raising thought consciousness. And one thing that you've kind of battled with is this notion of perfection. And you say in the book, the fear of imperfection in this society becomes an obsession-run riot. And obviously with social media and this idea of putting a filter on ourselves and our lives, people can feel that they have to be perfect all the time, not just in themselves, but their lives have to be perfect, family has to be perfect, boyfriend, husband.
Well, that's kind of what it feels like to be famous.
Just be perfect all the time.
Perfect all the time, lest you get critiqued. And then I would say, so what? Someone says something bad about you. Will you survive? Yes, you will. It doesn't feel good, but you'll survive. You'll be okay. And you don't have to live your life in this fake, idealized, you know, idea of what perfection is, because nobody even knows what perfection is. You know, so it's like this, I thought when I was younger, if I could just be perfect enough, then the world will leave me alone. Then I'll be safe. And it didn't really work that way. And it doesn't really work that way. So I think the best way to do it is don't use that filter. Be real. You know, do what you want to do, but know that there is no idea of perfection other than this kind of dreamed up idea that is a collective dream.
And you have always been quite different.
Yeah.
How have you navigated to kind of spread that difference and open people's minds up to difference? Because I can imagine there's lots of people, I just straight away think of a scenario where someone might be watching that might be bullied in school for having something different to the others, or
I was always bullied in school. And I just thought, those people are losers. I was like, I'm better than you.
How did you develop that mentality?
And when I mean I'm better than them, I mean I don't abuse other people for sport.
I see.
You know what I mean? And so inherently I must be better on some level because I'm not doing what you're doing. And I think so many of us can be the better of these people by not joining that crowd, by not joining bullies, by not being bullies, and understanding that people that are bullied, people don't like different. You know, I've always been different, and that's why I was bullied. But I just thought, well, my difference is what makes me kind of great, and I just have to survive you and outlast you in schools or in whatever situation. I'm like, I'm not going to be around these people forever. They're trolls. I just need to like survive them. But in the meanwhile, I can still have a good life. I can just do it for myself. And it does get lonely, and nobody, of course you would rather be accepted and loved, I suppose, and be bullied. But at the same time, if that was what these people's thoughts were, why would I want to be loved by them? I didn't respect them.
You do have a kind of Rose Army group going on. So you are loved and accepted.
But it's not about me, that one. Rose Army is really about, I saw a bent rose, like really bent and quite ugly. It had like one leaf left, or one petal left on it. Yeah. And it was growing up through the sidewalks in Brooklyn. And I thought, that's like all of us. We're bent but not broken. What a beautiful thing to be. And so Rose Army is like, do you think differently? Do you see differently? Congratulations, you're in the army. That's all it is.
Okay. And what is it with that kind of thinking differently that you really want to spark in others? You know, how do you think that people
it is okay to be different? It's more than okay. It's kind of necessary, because everybody is. And when they try to like fight to this place of normalcy, you're like, what is normal? Who says? Who has that final decree? And the people that are spreading that message of normalcy, who's benefiting? Because if it's not you, it's somebody else. If it's somebody else, then you're in a cult-like structure of thought.
Okay. And is your hair, your new image, part of that, of embracing that difference and being like, actually, I'm okay with who I am and I don't want to conform to society's...
Pretty much. Yeah, I just don't care.
Your hair looks amazing, by the way.
I stick it in the sink when I need it to be.
It looks amazing.
Redone.
It suits you. It looks really good. So we've talked about kind of how you've had twists and turns in your life, and a lot of people do fear change when it comes to life. And we were talking about this off camera, and that idea that, you know, a lot of people feel we do 1 year plan, 2 year plan, 5 year, 10 year plans, and we always feel like we've got a control over our lives, so we know exactly what's happening. And actually, with the idea of you wanting to raise thought consciousness, I'd always believed that meant, for me, the idea of being fully conscious is fully knowing yourself and being able to then control everything. But how have you kind of navigated through that change and not even suppress, but overcome that idea of fear of change?
I think I've always had so much extraordinary change, like back to back to back, that it was more like when things seem placid, I almost get afraid of like, where's it coming from? Because I know it's coming. So I've never been someone who could do those first year plan, second year plan, third year plan. It just didn't work for me because always something came out of the blue to throw it, you know, dump it on its ass, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I think the idea of having control of your life is a myth. I don't think there is any such thing. I think we do the best we can, and then the planet, you know, has control, not us.
And what did drive you to get out of bed every morning when you were going through what you've been through? Because, you know, you say that you still have bouts of depression. What does drive you? Because obviously, you know, mental health in society is such a big talking point, and a lot of people are coming out and saying, actually, I have suffered depression, etc. What has got you out of bed every day?
Well, for a long time it was my dogs, but I don't have them anymore. They died, so now it has to be, you know, sometimes I do. I sleep too much, or I just don't want to get out of bed. And I definitely have occasional depression problems, I think, like a lot of us, you know. It's just a fight to stay here, and it's a fight to stay here. You know, it's a fight to want to stay on this planet, and it's a fight that I kind of undertake every day.
But why?
Because, well, it'd be certainly easier not to be here.
No, as in, like, why is it a fight for you?
I don't know, it just always has been. It's always been
Has it got easier for you?
Some things have gotten easier, but it's just definitely a why. Like, I kind of feel like I'm more of an interplanetary person than I am of an Earth person. And sometimes I feel like I just really want to go home. But you stay because you fight another day and you see another beautiful sunrise and another beautiful sunset. And that's what I fight for.
What's the best piece of advice you've been given, and by who?
Oh, not really an advice person. And it has cuss words in it. So, I don't know if I can say that. 2 tears in a bucket, mother F it. And that just means cry a couple tears, pull up your bootstraps, keep marching. Stop, put your bags down, cry a couple tears, pull your boots back up, keep going. Just lean into the wind, And one of the things I do is I just lean into it, like, oh, this is going to be really hard, let's lean in.
And I suppose from what you've been saying, because I think that the general persona is you are really tough. You've come out and you have spoken out about various things that have sparked movements, right? And you come across as a really tough, strong woman, but actually there you've talked about all your vulnerabilities and the fact that actually your motto is just get over it, move on and carry on. And obviously you have moments where you don't feel you're able to do that either, but you clearly have these things in place in your life where you're like, actually, this is going to help me get up again.
Yeah, and no, I mean, I definitely know I'm perceived as this tough, and I am. But you can also be tough and soft at the same time. One does not preclude the other, and I think you can also be a fully dimensional being. One person, you're not a caricature. We are many things all at once, usually.
At the end of your book, you give nuggets of inspiration, and I loved where you said, we're here to be and bring magic. So if you had 3 wishes that you could magic in this world and change for the future generations, what would they be?
I would magically relieve them of depression. I would magically relieve them of self-criticism. If it's something that they're thinking they should look like from the outside and not themselves, and also magically make people be able to have more empathy for others and to be able to put themselves in their shoes and their body and maybe understand that it's not that easy to be strong and that we should give them a little more support.
Okay. And what message would you give to others to start creating change today?
Start by using the word no, because by figuring out the word no, you understand what you're going to say yes to in your life. Start by setting boundaries, and it's hard and it's scary, but each time you do it, it gets easier. I swear to God, it does. And that's the way forward, and to have empathy and care for others and for yourself. Be gentle.
Rose, thank you so much for your time. I'm so glad you said yes to me and not no. And thank you for watching At Home with Anila. Stay tuned for more.